Attendance Awareness Month, but if you're not feeling well, please protect your partners and colleagues. I'd like to turn our attention to something a little bit more challenging and just really talk to the community about what's taking place with transportation. I know that we've had quite a few complaints and quite a few concerns, and I just want everyone to be aware of some of the efforts that we are taking in order to make, and pun intended, the bumpy road a little bit more smooth. I will always take the blame for any challenges that may be the result of our changes to transportation. But any improvements in service so far this year are directly attributed to the team in the City School District of New Rochelle Transportation Department. Not only them, but their actions and their close communication with the individuals who work at First Student have led to some significant improvements. We will continue to work with our school and our transportation provider to improve our protocols. The Transportation Department is receiving feedback from the drivers of individual routes and are making real-time adjustments to those routes using the data points that are provided. Once changes are made, we communicate directly with the families whenever a change is necessary. Last week, Thursday, I met with the leadership team of First Student and reinforced with them my expectations and desires for our district. To date, and keeping in mind today is just day 11 of transportation services, to date, there have been some significant increases in timeliness to specific schools and individual routes. I do acknowledge, though, that there are still some routes and some schools that require improvement, as we are still working on shifts in time and rerouting in conjunction with our drivers. We have allocated funds to overtime and coverage at each of our schools during the month of September to assist with student coverage during transportation transition times. This will be an annual process, and it's something that we're going to formalize and put into place moving forward. We have also facilitated a rotation schedule of clerical employees within the City Hall during this month of September to assist in answering telephones and assisting families who come directly to the Transportation Department. Currently, we're in the process of adjusting some of our pickup times due to heavy traffic and construction as reported by the drivers, keeping in mind that we need to have regular drivers and regular monitors on the routes to inform us of daily challenges as it relates to traffic. Whenever we have drivers that are absent and we have a substitute in, that's a data set that we're not getting because they don't know what the normal experience is. So we're ensuring that we have regular drivers available to us. We are reviewing buses that have been arriving late to schools to determine the main issue for their late arrival. And we've also received feedback from drivers that some of our schools have been holding up the buses from departing, so we're moving away from that practice. We're looking at school cause patterns to eliminate any potential delays on the pickup for our second runs. There are some cases in which we may have to add an additional vehicle to accommodate a change to a route, and we're considering that as well. As we receive time adjustments from the bus company, we will make changes accordingly and continue to respond to family concerns. Most requests regarding bus stops will not be addressed until October, so please keep that in mind. And please know that I'm gonna say it. So this is a normal operation of a school district as it relates to the beginning of the year in transportation. Everything that I've outlined here thus far, with the exception of the coverage for students during transition times and with the coverage here at City Hall, are part of our normal process as we look at all of our routes. Usually it's about the end of September, middle part of October when we start to smooth everything out with some normalcy. And we're looking to meet those times again, and in the future to advance that ahead of time. So please, I ask for your continued patience. We're also working with some of our neighboring schools. I don't want to name any in particular, but we understand that our changes to our dismissal time might interfere with their dismissal as well. So we're working with our colleagues in the New Rochelle Police Department, with our traffic supervisors, and we're working with the bus company to meet the needs of our neighbors as well. So as we receive time adjustments from the bus company, we'll make changes accordingly and continue to respond to, I think I read that already. Most requests regarding bus stops will not be addressed until October, and we again ask that you bear with us as we work through this. As a reminder, in case you were not aware, last Wednesday, September 11th, we observed the 23rd National Patriots Day in honor of the memory of those who lost their lives during and as a result of the terrorist attacks on September 11th. We hold all those who personally suffered as a result of these heinous acts in our thoughts and our prayers. I'd like to thank Trustee Williams for stealing my thunder as it relates to Hispanic Heritage Month. So happy Hispanic Heritage Month, everyone. And please be reminded that on Tuesday and Wednesday of next week, September 23rd and 24th, schools and offices will be closed for the observance of Rosh Hashanah. To all of our community members who will be celebrating, I wish you Shana Tova. And with that, President Iannuzzi, I will relinquish the mic to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Reynolds. So next up are discussion items, and we have 3 tonight. So Dr. Reynolds, want me to throw it over to you to set the stage?
Good evening, Board of Education, and for those of you who are watching at home, in case you got bored with my location, I just changed. So this evening, we are pleased to introduce to you one of the most mountain-moving people that we have in our district, our Director of Facilities, Mr. Keith Watkins. He has a dual presentation this evening. Are we starting with our student first? So Mr. Watkins is going to come to the podium this evening to introduce to you a young person who brought sunshine, smiles, and a great work ethic to the City Hall during the months of our summer. So I'm going to ask Mr. Watkins to please come on up and speak a little bit about some sunshine that we've had in these halls over the last few weeks.
Thank you for that introduction. Good evening, President Iannuzzi, Vice President Lewis, and trustee members. 3 years ago, for those of you that were here or paying attention, the board unanimously wanted to reward my predecessor, Mr. Oh, there you go. Predecessor Carl Thurnow. Carl Thurnow, who was here from 2016 to 22, and in recognition of Mr. Thurnow, the idea of a summer intern for a student, a rising senior who is interested in architecture, engineering, or facilities management. So this is now our 3rd year doing this, and it's been very exciting, I must say. This year's recipient, I'm not going to say that they were any better than the first 2. They all brought their own personalities and spunk, so to say, to the job. This individual was asking what else to do, what can I do? The questions, I almost had to tell him to just leave my office a few times because I couldn't do what I was doing and still answer his questions, but they were always in the right frame of mind. This person joined with me on my capital construction calls, did inspections, threw on a hard hat, a vest, got on the roof and got dirty. You're going to see some pictures, a quick little video. The picture that you see there, we were able to celebrate his birthday with him, so we were honored to have him with us for that part too. But with that said, the feedback from the staff who also got to work with him, they got to mentor and he got to shadow them, nothing but praise about his work ethic, his questions, his initiative. He's going to do some amazing things, and we're going to make sure that he gets all the qualification, certification he needs ahead of time, so he stands out the minute he decides to take on the world. So with that, I would like to ask Joshua Rodriguez to join me at the microphone.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Joshua Rodriguez, and I am now a senior at New Rochelle High School. I want to thank President Iannuzzi, Vice President Lewis and Ross, Superintendent Reynolds, and the Board of Education for taking time to be here this evening. I am sincerely grateful for this opportunity to have been the recipient of the Carl T. Thurnow internship this past summer. The facilities department led by Mr. Watkins gave me a deeper understanding of the responsibilities involved in facilities management. I also want to extend my thanks to Ann, Linda, Irene, and Ray for their informative and supportive guidance regarding their roles in the department. During my internship, I had the chance to shadow Mr. Watkins in various meetings related to capital construction, safety, new products and innovations, inventory management control, and the monthly custodial maintenance staff meetings. I visited construction sites at different schools to conduct necessary inspections and collaborate with Jacobs Construction Management and contractors. Additionally, I worked with Frank to clean the HVAC coils on the roof of Albert Leonard Middle School, completed various grounds related tasks with Trevor, assisted our carrier HVAC technician at the City Hall in performing preventative maintenance, and worked with Mia, Rob, Sal, and Sebastian in the Barnard greenhouse. I also helped Alex with custodial tasks in City Hall and assisted Bruno in delivering mail and packages throughout the district. Overall, my summer experience was fantastic. I met new people, and the challenges I faced helped me strengthen my mindset. As I complete my senior year at Neosho High School, I look forward to more opportunities with the facilities department. After graduation, I plan to enroll in the HVAC program at Westchester Community College to acquire the skills necessary to become a certified HVAC technician. I will also keep a close eye on school district job postings related to the facilities and HVAC opportunities. Once again, thank you for this opportunity. I am genuinely grateful.
Matt, can you show that video real quick?
So in this video, I was at Albert Leonard Middle School with Frank, and we were cleaning the coils on the roof, and then we cleaned pretty much like every coil on the roof.
There's 92 units like that at Albert that need to be replaced and put with. No, I'm sorry, I'm going off on a tangent. But what Josh was doing there was we were teaching Josh why it's important to clean the coils, and so that they can run efficiently. And that unit that you see there is still functioning at a high level, and it's well beyond its useful life per the industry. So with proper PM and proper maintenance of these things, we were able to teach Josh it's very important to spend the time and the money to do preventative maintenance, because that unit right there, you're looking at replacement of about $65,000 for that one unit. So it makes sense to clean them and maintain them to make sure they're operating at a high level. But there you go, you're all set.
Thank you.
So I recall having some summers to myself as a student and seeing how late I could sleep. I have to tell you, this young man came in on a daily basis looking for work. He wasn't afraid to interact with any adult that walked in the hallway and actually asked, well, what do you do? So that level of inquisitiveness is what we're looking for in our students. And anyhow and any time that we can be a benefit to our students' growth, we will. So congratulations for all of your hard work and for just making a way for the next person. So those are big shoes that have to be filled next summer. Thank you very much, Mr. Watkins. Now, Keith is not off the hook, so we are about to bring Mr. Watkins back up, joined with some of our partners, just to have an update as it relates to our district pool at New Rochelle High School. This update may not be what the community wants to hear in this moment, but much along the lines of talking about PM as it relates to rooftop air conditioning units, I would not feel comfortable in saying to our community, I'm going to give the green light to just go ahead and fix the pool when the same issue could occur again on any day. So with that, I'm going to relinquish the microphone to Mr. Watkins, who will give us a brief update about our New Rochelle High School pool.
Thank you, Superintendent Reynolds. Right back at the mic. So just at the high point, I think, is what Superintendent just highlighted. You know, we most definitely could have put a pool right back in place again and put it back exactly the way that it was. But as you know, after Ida, we had Tropical Storm Ophelia, right? I can't say I guarantee it. I can't say it would have happened for sure, but I can say to you, based on Ida and based on Tropical Storm Ophelia, there was a very high likelihood that if we would have repaired the pool in kind, we would have had to go out and ask for additional funds and additional means and additional time. So to pause and to take the time to do this, where the folks involved feel confident that what we're going to be able to present and the timeline and the end product to the community and our students, more importantly, is something that is going to endure the test of time, that it's got a very good chance of lasting another event like Ida and Ophelia. So what I'm going to do is we have representatives with us here from Jacobs, Passero, CS Arch. I'm going to let Chris Laporta from Passero kind of do the presentation, and then Superintendent Reynolds, you're well versed in this too. I want to be able to make sure that any questions, any input, because there's a lot of moving parts here, and we want to effectively we want to be able to explain where we've come, where we are, and where we're going. And I think we want to be able to leave here today so that folks understand exactly the direction we're going. Okay, great. So Mr. Laporta, want to come on up and join me? This is Chris Laporta from Passero.
Hello, good evening. I'm Chris Laporta. I'm a civil engineer with Passero Engineering. Does this device here control the slides? Perfect. So we have been doing a drainage study for the entire high school campus, and the purpose of that study is to evaluate all of the infrastructure and all of the pipe capacities, the groundwater conditions, and look for all the potential sources of the flooding, pair that with the hydrology of the site and how it conveys through the existing stormwater systems. And the goal of that was to put forward some schematic level drainage improvements that would lessen the effects of the flooding. The concept plans that we're preparing, the intent is that we'll provide the plan with a cost estimate, and it would be the basis of what's needed to put that belt and suspenders system in place so that the pool could be reconstructed. We started off the study doing field observations, and I put a few photos up here, the outfall conditions. It's pretty typical at every outfall where you see the lake level is essentially at the pipe. That pipe is partially submerged, and during any rainfall event, if the lake raises at all, it would be submerged, and that creates a condition where there's a surcharge in the pipe and the drainage backs up through the collection system. These pipes are also very flat. They don't have a large pitch to them. So as you can see in this photo, there's a lot of sedimentation that forms around the outfall, and it's pretty typical at all of the locations. And I know the district and Keith have been doing a good job of doing continual maintenance at all of these outfalls to clean it out, to try and ensure we have the most capacity possible. But with the condition where the pipes are so flat and the level is right there, it's going to continue to build up. The next photo here, what you can see on the right-hand side, see if I can, I guess it won't work on there, but on the right side, there's a small iron pipe. It's a 12-inch pipe, and that is the stream that the lake overflows into. And the the entire lake, when there's a rainstorm and the level rises, that one pipe is the only outlet for the entire lake. So that's a key point there. That's on the city property, and I know that the district is coordinating with the city, potentially ways to mitigate that by either increasing the channel capacity, larger pipes, or putting in valves so that the lake could potentially be drained in advance of significant rainfall events. Lowering it, a foot or two would create an immense storage capacity that could kind of hold over and let the collection system, the drainage system, outlet during a storm event. So that's one of the key areas that we found and identified in our visit. And right here, this is a test pit that we dug right outside of the pool. You could see Jacobs is there with the measuring tape, and there's a pump down there that's pumping continuously. It's a contractor's pump. The groundwater elevation there was about 4 feet in depth, and that pump had been running a long time, and as fast as the water was being pumped out, it was coming back in. So that's the groundwater elevation there, and that's an important visual to see because part of what's happening is when you have a significant rainfall, there's nowhere for the water to go, so the groundwater level will rise. So obviously, as part of the new pool project, you'd go in there and waterproof the wall the best you can. But what we're gonna put forward, and I'll show shortly in a future slide, is a more robust system that'll provide additional protections. But stepping back to the big picture, as part of the study, we looked at all of the record drawings from 2016, 2007, 2008, and even older drawings. And this is a color-coded map that we assessed we basically did an inventory of all of the piping and noted the diameter, the material, and the age. This, in combination with HydroCAD model, so that's the software that we use to model rainstorms and the outfalls. We were able to build a model of the entire drainage system. So the different colors that you see on this map are tied to each outfall. There's 11 outfalls on the lake, so each one has what we call a catchment area that collects and drains through the piping to that particular outfall. The next step is we prepared capacity maps. This one is a little bit zoomed in, but the point of this is it shows green, yellow, and red, and the green pipes, based on our modeling, have adequate capacity. The red pipes are at capacity during large storm events. So when you look at this, you look at the infrastructure that's in place, the age of it, the capacity of the pipes, the groundwater levels, the outfall conditions. You start to think about what can we do on the district property here to control our own destiny, put in some measures. And we focused on two main areas. What you see here is the library courtyard area. And that area, I know the pool one gets a lot of attention, but this area is also experiencing flooding. It's a challenging issue because there's two outlet pipes. They're the kind of thick, black-looking lines that go across the page there, and those outlet pipes actually go underneath the building. So when you have a courtyard, it's hard to just replace a pipe that goes under a building. So what we're proposing here, this is a conceptual schematic. It's some dry wells and storage chambers that would be able to collect and hold the rainfall and also pump it out during rainfall events. We think that considering pumping solutions is important because those pipes are flat, and what happens if there's a rain event where the lake level rises, the pipe is full, if there's nowhere for the water to go, you got to push it out at a higher pressure in order to keep it flowing. And a little bit hard to see on this drawing, on these monitors, but what we're proposing as well is to put in two check valves, which would be on those outlet pipes where just outside of the library before you get to the turf fields, it looks like it would be a good area. You could see there's a lot of topography. All those dashed lines are contour lines. So we looked at a spot that it would be the easiest to construct these check valves. What a check valve is, it lets the water go out one way and it doesn't let it go back the other way. So if we force the water out, it'll be forced to continue going downstream. And next here, this one is a zoom in on the pool area. This one here, we're looking at doing a curtain drain system, which is essentially we dig a deep trench around the perimeter of the pool building and infill it with stone so that we could convey the water to a storage chamber and a pumping chamber. And the idea here is the same concept. We're going to need to look at the flood elevation during the big storm and make sure that a pump is sized properly in order to convey the water and push it downstream. One thing that's not shown, it's a little bit out of the viewport here, is that we're also considering additional storage structures around the bleachers, which would allow us to hold as much water until the storm passes. So those are the two concepts that we're putting forward with cost estimates. Our next step would be to bring these into design development. And in order to do that, we're currently preparing RFPs, requests for proposals, for some supplementary subsurface utility location work and also hydrogeology. Hydrogeology is the key study here because it's very evident that there's groundwater influence on these flooding issues. And if we're going to put in a system to pump the water out, some of the important things to know are what the transmittivity of the soil is. So the soil will convey the groundwater. It was filling that hole. That was a small pump we had in there, but it was filling the water into the hole as fast as we were pumping it out. So we need to put in a few monitoring wells in order to do some testing with a hydrogeologist and make sure that we put a proper pump in there. So those are our next steps, and we're kind of doing that in parallel with wrapping up this drainage study. I mean, another really nice thing, one of the purposes of this drainage study that is above and beyond just the key areas that we're focusing on the flooding is we're producing this report so that we have a roadmap. So anytime the district is doing a capital project, any place on the campus, you could say, look, that pipe right there has a capacity issue. If we're opening up the ground over here, we should be replacing this pipe while we're over here. So that drainage study we're targeting to release in October as well. So we're wrapping this up here and getting ready to push these solutions into go full bore into design development and put forward a system that would protect the infrastructure inside of the building and ensure that that project can move forward smoothly and with longevity.
I want to, Keith, did you have anything to add to?
I just want to say what he just said was the entire campus at high school just underwent an MRI, right? We just got through the tissue, the bones, we now have a very detailed understanding of our systems, which we've never had. Every time we would dig a hole, we would understand, well, we probably shouldn't have dug there, now we got to fix that. What Chris just said is not only going to help us resolve the situation at hand, but it's going to help us every step of the way and anything else we touch on that campus. That was my point. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So to the board, forgive me for speaking to you from here. I want, before you ask questions, I feel I would be remiss if I didn't make mention of a few things. In addition to the work that's being done, and in addition to the foresight and being proactive under the leadership of Mr. Watkins, I firstly want to thank our partners for working with us and getting as far as we are currently. Secondly, I would like to thank the community for your patience in allowing us to do things the right way rather than do things the fast way. I would also like to thank our partners at the city of New Rochelle, particularly working under our city manager, Mr. Melendez. This discovery was done in partnership, in conjunction. So we want to ensure that anything that we discover that might be city related, we can work together on this. And that has been afforded to us in ways that have not been afforded to us in the past. I will state it that way. And lastly, I would be remiss if I did not thank Dr. Demario Strickland, the superintendent of schools in the city of Mount Vernon, for allowing our students to utilize the Mount Vernon High School pool while we go through this study and this work free of charge. So to the board members at the Mount Vernon City School District and to Dr. Strickland, I thank you again for your partnership and your understanding.
Thank you, Dr. Reynolds. Colleagues, if you don't mind, I have like 3 questions. Is there any immediate concern with McKenna Field since it's right there with any groundwater?
McKenna Field has a robust drainage system beneath it. There's a lot of flat under drains that convey to the system. I mean, during a storm, shouldn't like the field's not going to float away. It's secure and it's intact.
New turf.
But,
Yeah, and I'll add, that turf is just 2 years old now. So when we had the turf peeled away and we were replacing it, we took every opportunity to poke, prod, fish, and look at things, and we felt very confident that the perimeter of the field was keeping water at bay. Only during Ida did we have that rain on top, but besides that, we're in a good spot with McKenna Field.
Okay. And then just for future costs of like the RFPs and is this being covered by insurance, the current bond, FEMA, or all of the above?
All of the above. Everything that we're currently doing was approved by voters and is ongoing reimbursement from FEMA and that process, which I have to say, I've got quite an education with FEMA. I'm my 6th representative in FEMA. I love them. They do great work. We are at 90% reimbursement aid for everything that we can agree with was caused by the storm. So we're in a very good shape.
Thank you. Any other colleagues have questions? Ms. Clayton Fernandez.
Hi, well done on the report. I just had a few questions, having lived in the area for over 20 years. So does the report extend past the pond near the library, or, I mean, do they kind of run up against each other, the Friendship Garden? Will we have to worry about anything with that?
Yeah, the report is looking at the campus as a whole.
As
so
a whole.
Everything on school district property.
Okay. And does the lake, is that considered? Because I couldn't tell looking at the drawing, but I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. The drawing, it's tough to put that amount of information on slide. But we, if you need it, I can send it to you. The survey, we own the shoreline at the school.
Got it.
Right, and then when you go over to the tennis courts, it actually hangs a left, and then the city property picks up,
Right.
and they own everything
Everything.
around Huguenot Park all the way back around to the teachers' parking lot.
Okay. Answered my question.
Any other questions, Ms. Williams?
Thank you, gentlemen, for this presentation, and thank you for starting with our students first. And I'm very impressed that by our student intern, and it started me thinking. A few years ago, I attended a FabLearn conference, and that's through Teachers College, Columbia University. So it's a STEAM makerspace conference where people come from all over the world, including the United States, and they present their projects that solve different problems. And what stood out to me was that, like students from the United States, they were coming up with really great ideas, and it was just wonderful. But some of our international friends, they were coming up with ideas to really solve local problems. Like, if they had drainage problems or if they had problems with Wi-Fi. So, the students there, they were coming up with things to solve problems that would benefit the community in real time. And I just made a connection where Mr. Torres, right, the intern, he was actually learning about facilities. And he's going to go on from there. So my question is, I think I'm seeing something exciting. I'm seeing something where, actually our New Rochelle students could come up with solutions for our local problems with the drainage and things like that. And is that something that has been a conversation, or is that something that is done throughout your industry?
Thank you, Trustee Williams. Thank you for the kind words of Mr. Rodriguez. He's going to do great things.
Rodriguez.
We connecting those dots because of the high level of knowledge and credentials that are needed for things like this. I don't see why we could never partner with that kind of relationship with our students. We've kind of scratched the surface a little bit. Dr. Artiles has a program at the high school related to construction. So multiple times last year, and the year before and this year, students have come out on the mezzanine of New Rochelle High School. They watched all of I don't know if any of you saw those monstrous concrete pumping trucks. We had to get concrete from the softball field into the courtyard. So there were these big boom trucks with concrete trucks parked, and they basically pumped the concrete over the original part of the building and down into the courtyard, right? But before they got there, students got to come out and see the rebar. Why is it tied? What is pinning? What are all these terms? And they got quite an education on concrete, excavation, all those things. So I think we have the pieces in place. I think a little more collaboration, we could probably pull something together.
Thank
So you got it. Thank you.
Oh, and also, can you, you were talking about the field observations, and you were talking about the possibilities with the piping, because we only have one pipe, but you were saying, can you just repeat that? What are some options or solutions to a problem?
Sure. So that one pipe that I was talking about, it's not on the district's property. It's on the city side. It's the outlet of the lake. But it's a 12-inch diameter pipe. It could only take so much flow. So if you think about the lake level rising, how much water that would be flowing over the weir to go through that pipe, you're constricted there. So the solutions that I was suggesting, and these would, require further vetting out, but a potential valving system and a way to lower the lake in advance of storms, or just to get more capacity in that pipe so that it flows out at a faster rate, and widening the cross section of that stream that it dumps into. So those are the types of things that could be looked at there, and I do know that these all do tie into the city did their own drainage study as well. So just downstream, they have some concepts to create solutions too, but it really it does require looking at everything downstream to make that work.
And I'll just add that that's what the superintendent commented on about our proactive and positive collaboration with the city right now. So you can't really look at the lakes, right? You got to look at down North Ave where the end point is and work your way back. And then from the lake, you got to go to the courtyard. From the courtyard, you got to go to McKenna Field. From McKenna Field, you got to go to the pool. From the pool, you got to go out on Clove Road, where when Ida hit, those manholes out on Clove Road were shooting 10 feet in the air, right? So we've gotten to a point where we have a much better understanding of all the variables that are causing us these issues, and we're starting to break them down one by one.
Mr.
Thank
Singleton?
you.
I apologize if I missed this, but is there any time frame to fixing all of this, particularly the pool, which is always the topic of conversation?
Yeah, you had to ask that, right, Sam? No. No. So without, again, and I've taken calls. I've had meetings in my office. I've been as transparent as I can be. Right, doing this the right way is there's really no time. So once we get to the RFP process that was talked about here, and once we get that last piece together, and as Chris was talking, we'll have a package. We already got the permits to do the pool. So once we understand what those supportive variable concepts are, underground storage wells that pump and buy us time, check valves that will allow us to lower the lake levels in advance of a storm. Once we have the understanding that we've been working towards, right, then we can actually start to put out the bids for the actual construction. I've always said, once we get a shovel in the ground, I'm going to throw it out there. It's a 1.5 year time frame. I'm just going to say so again, but if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. We needed to get to a point, but construction for a pool of the size that we have and all the variables, about 1.5 years. I know you didn't want to hear that.
I have a quick one. First, thank you. The work that you guys are doing is fantastic, and I really appreciate the hard work. I'm assuming we already have done what we can around our buildings. I know we're talking about underground, but assuming to protect the buildings themselves is already completed.
From lessons learned, yes.
Okay.
So a lot of our buildings now, we have these door dams, they're called, and in a known event ahead of time, I'll just use Barnard as an example. That intersection at Barnard, when we get more than 4 inches of rain. So the district, I sleep good until I hear we're getting more than 3 inches. At the 3 inch, we start talking, we start texting. We're all, at at 4 inches, at Barnard, the water comes up through the city system and it goes onto our property by pitch. So we bought these door dams and some of these inflatable tubes that divert water back to another area. They've been very effective. Some of the things, like at the high school, it starts in that kitchen hallway outside the plant manager's office. That's the lowest point. The old mechanical room of the library. That's why we took all that mechanical stuff out of there and put it in a room above floor, and that's never been wet since. So those are the things that when we know we're getting more than 3 inches, we put a plan into place with our district facilities team. We bring pumps, we know where to go, and we have been super, super successful in mitigating the limited amount of water that has actually gone into our buildings with a lot of the lessons that we've learned.
And during those conversations that we're having via text and phone call, and we're talking, these occurrences usually happen on Saturday and Sunday, of course.
At 3 a.m. It doesn't rain at 8 p.m. It's 3 a.m. Yeah.
But we are actually mobilizing our team, and we actually have some pictures of our very own Ray Casher in his frogman suit going into drains to try to get the debris out ahead of time before the rain actually starts. So,
Ms. Jacobs?
Thank you. Thank you so much. This is really educational, and appreciate all the work that goes into making the area have longevity as opposed to the quick fix. How will, maybe this will come out more with the project plan, but how will like school happenings be affected in any way, or like the actual building use, or is it really mostly on the outside of the work?
No, it's inside and outside,
Okay.
but fortunately, like many other specific, like let's just say the planetarium, right? It's designed and it's at the end of a hallway. It's off the side of the building, so we're going to, like we always do. We have construction happening right now, right? We talk about it. We speak with building administrators. We obviously do not want to interrupt curriculum and teaching, right? That's what our main focus is, teaching our students. The pool is designed and where it's located, where we feel we're going to be able to do a majority of that work during the day, and we might even bid of this 2 shifts and try to expedite the process. So that's all got to be determined. But yeah, we should be able to continue work without interrupting our curriculum.
but in the event that we are doing work during the instructional day and we do get complaints, which has happened during some of our projects, we will halt the project and then turn to the second shift.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, Dr. Reynolds. Key team, thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you, everyone.
So our next agenda item is our board goals for 2025-2026. Perfect. We're going to just switch over to that. I was actually think I can just stay here for now until I have to. Millie, do you think you can get the clicker for me? Oh, thanks, Heath. So in August, the board held our annual retreat where we discussed and developed our board goals for the year. And we're here to share with the community and make any changes that we need to before board adoption, which would be at our next meeting in October 7th. We would adopt these goals. So colleagues, we're going to go through them, and any discussions that we want to change anything or make any edits, we can do that today. So just a background of what Board of Education goals are. They provide strategic directions and governance for the school district. Such goals will be related to internal board workings, not the work of the district. So we're going to focus on big picture priorities, governance responsibilities, and community engagement. Scope, district-wide vision, policy setting, and accountability. And some examples that you will actually see in some of our goals is strengthening community communication, enhancing board professional development, and improving transparency by publishing board meeting summaries. So this is the responsibility of the board collectively, where we will set, monitor, and revisit these goals. And they're typically aligned with the school year, but reviewed regularly. So the three goals that we, the board, came to consensus around is goal number 1, which is we're calling, could change the name, but we're calling Vision 2030. Goal 2, operationalizing committees, and goal 3, communication and engagement. So what is this Vision 2030? So the board wants to establish a long-term vision for the district by 2030, reflecting bold ideas and community input with feasibility and implementation planning. So in layman's terms, basically, over the years, this board has really worked hard to respond to challenges, but too often we've been reactionary, addressing what's directly in front of us rather than anticipating what's on the horizon. And that was a consensus of the board that has to change. We have to be more proactive than reactive. So as a board, we are committing to being proactive, and this goal is about that. So what is the vision for the future of the New Rochelle School District? So we're going to be asking our community to join us in this dialogue where do we want to see our schools in 5, 10, 15, 20 years? What structural changes will strengthen our schools, and what innovations will prepare our students not just for today, but for the world they are inheriting tomorrow? So this is going to be a very transparent and engaged process that we're going to chart over this year to really look at some areas that the board wants further understanding and feasibility studies on. So basically what that means is that we're hoping, and if we can go to the next slide, we have some KPIs and metrics and timelines that we put together for some of these initiatives. So for this timeline, we really want to start spending our second board meetings of the month. They're called committee of the whole sessions. They're like work sessions for the board to really start fleshing out some of these ideas, coming up with a Vision 2030 idea catalog that we can then bring to our community, get some feedback from the community about like, what are 4 to 6 areas that we want to create working groups to start exploring feasibility for? So that's really what this goal of Vision 2030 is. Colleagues, questions, comments, concerns? Anything we think we need to change for this? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, in the timeline. So we're trying to, September to October, come up with this board generation ideas, getting community engagement in November, December. The board then coming back and narrowing down to those 4 to 6 ideas and asking the superintendent to create working groups to produce these reports on these ideas.
I think that this plan, this Vision 2030, is responsive to, what our community has been asking for. Our community is very passionate and very engaged, and they want to be involved. And this board, we really care about our community and look forward to engaging with the community to solve our problems.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Any other feedback, comments, concerns? Okay. Oh, sorry.
No concerns, President Iannuzzi. Just to remind the community that I know that we talk about engaging the community in many different ways over these last few years, at least for the ones of us who've been on the board for some time now. How this looks is still going to be shaken out. So today is not the day where we'll talk about the details of how we do all the steps of all the things to get to all the vision goals, but simply to bring it to your attention of what we're thinking that we could begin the process of for this year.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. So our second goal is operationalizing our committees, and the objective is to strengthen our board governance by making committees active, transparent, and impactful. So we have more committees this year than we usually have, or we have since I first got on the board. We have a board operations committee, a special education committee, a finance committee, and a policy committee. So with these committees, we're really looking at streamlining them, creating annual calendars of committee meetings, each committee developing, adopting a written charter or charge, having committee reports actually presented at our board meetings, and having the committees produce an annual end-of-year report with accomplishments, challenges, and recommendations. So this month, we already started with a policy committee meeting. We're in the process of setting up dates for our special education committee meeting. Our finance committee meeting met once already this month, and our board operations will probably meet in October. So from now into October, we're really going to create the calendars for these meetings, which we have internally, but we're going to share them publicly. We will create the written charters, which a lot of them already were created due to the board resolutions, but really fleshing those out and starting to quarterly report back to the public about what we're doing in these committees. Colleagues, any questions, comments, concerns?
No concerns, just having already begun serving on the committees, and now I think it's a valuable way for us to also help further along our first goal on Vision 2030, and I look
Thank you, Ms. Jacob.
And I will add too for the committee notes that for those that aren't aware, obviously this is an unpaid position. Our committee meetings happen typically after we go to work. And so they're happening in the evenings throughout the week, throughout the month, throughout the year. And so it's a different format than what you see before you when we're all on the dais here.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis.
And I think that this is something that is beneficial because, you know, in the past, people served on the board for 40, 30 years. Now people are serving for 5 years or less. And I think this is going to be good for to attract people or to encourage people to run for the board, and also make it standardize our operation so it'll be easier to stay on the board.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Our third goal for the year is communication and engagement, and our objective is to increase transparency, build trust, and strengthen connections with students, families, staff, and community. Some of our timelines and KPIs, so we want to host at least 4 community listening sessions per year, ensuring that all of our board communications is translated into the top 3 district languages. Really excited about the student voice and onboarding and building out the student board member role, which we should be announcing more information very soon about that. And then 4 is really that data and internal communication and receiving monthly data dashboards about attendance, enrollment, budget to actuals, and staffing so the board can keep that fresh in mind when we're going into budget season and throughout the year. So some of the timeline actions that we have is that from September to November, launch our first community listening session, ensuring that all of our communications are being translated and onboarding our student board member, and really looking at what data the board wants in the data dashboard and starting that. And then so far, for the next 3 months, we'll have our second listening session, our third of the next quarter, and the last quarter, our fourth listening session, and a year in review of what we've done and what areas that we also had to look at more. Colleagues, questions, comments, concerns? Am I missing anything? Are we missing anything?
Good.
Okay, so at our next board meeting, we will adopt these goals, and then we will start actualizing it. For Vision 2030, in my mind, our second meeting in October 23rd, if I believe that's correct, we will start having those conversations. All right, that is the last of our discussion items. We are going to move into public comment. So give me 1 second while I pull my statement up. Oh, I'm sorry. Does any of my colleagues have any liaison reports?
I do.
Okay.
So I'm the liaison for the Westchester Putnam School Boards Association, Connect, Learn, and Advocate. On Monday, we had the training for our student school board member, and also there was a roundtable discussion where we spoke about different topics pertaining to education, and we spoke about portrait of a high school graduate, and we had a sumptuous meal prepared and served by BOCES students, and we had many New Rochelle students represented there, so that was really exciting to see our students there. And in terms of the roundtable discussions, I was part of the civic education discussion, and our civics education is part of the New York State Social Studies Learning Standards. And, you know, I was thinking, you know, how we have student representatives from the high school under the leadership of Dr. Achilles who present to our school board. And now we're also going to have a student school board member as part of New York State law. And I think it's like really meaningful because I think of myself as a New Rochelle high school student. And I remember being introduced to voting by the League of Women Voters in my social studies class. And they came and they told us about the importance of voting, and they also gave us applications. So as soon as I was old enough, I had my application turned in and I was able to vote. So that's something that occurred in New Rochelle when I was a student, and I'm sure that similar or not, or even if not more civic engagement opportunities are made available to our students. And also, I sat at a table of people who our topic was student rigor, and I was, I was thinking about like all of the wonderful opportunities that we offer to our New Rochelle high school students at different levels. So I was thinking about our science research, BOCES, Project Search, the WISE program, Advanced Placement, AP, My Brother's Keeper, My Sister's Keep Her, PAVE. And all of these programs, oh, and also the Summer Facilities Internship Program, which I just learned about this evening, all those opportunities that we offer to our New Rochelle high school students at that level, not to mention the other opportunities that we offer pre-K through 12. And I was thinking I would really be interested in making sure that our students are really made aware of AP, WISE, Project Search, BOCES, and science research. Because I remember as a student, I had friends who were in honors. So I said, oh, they're the honor student. I remember when I was in high school, this was like in the 80s. So the honor students, they got to do computers. And I was like, oh wow. I didn't really know what a computer was because like nobody really knew, I guess, except for the honors people. And so basically, I just thought it was just a better electric typewriter word processor where you could store the information. Okay, so that's what I knew about computers at that point. But as a student, I never thought of myself as being an honor student because I wasn't in honors. Nobody selected me for it. And I never thought that it was something that I could do or achieve. So, I would hope that, current students, we make them aware that, yes, you can take an AP class. You can do a WISE project. You can do Project Search. You can do science research. And also, there are people who are here in the community and also in the schools who can help you to achieve that. So you don't have to be a genius. You can be a person, a New Rochelle student, someone who is very bright. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Williams. Any other liaison reports? Okay. Seeing none, we're going to move into public comment. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to convene into the public comment period of the meeting. The Board of Education adopted Policy 1230 in April 2022 to ensure all members of the public had the opportunity to speak at both of our board meetings each month. We believe it is crucial for us to hear from our community members about their concerns and issues. Having said that, please note the board is here to listen. The public comment period is not designed to be a discussion. Accordingly, understand the board will not respond to your concerns and questions tonight. We take your concerns and questions seriously and want to have sufficient time to process and research issues if need be. We will, however, respond to your questions and concerns at a future meeting or have the proper staff member get back to you at the appropriate time. I also want to point out that under state and federal privacy laws, we are unable to entertain any comments or questions about school personnel and students. Please know, however, that we take personnel concerns very seriously. On these matters, we ask you to go through the appropriate administrative channels. Finally, we recognize that right now our nation and our community are polarized on a number of issues. That said, we want our school board meetings to serve as an example to our students that members of our school board and members of our community can deal with controversial issues in a civil manner and demonstrate mutual respect for one another. In that spirit, we will insist that all speakers and members of the audience maintain civility and respect for any divergent views that others possess. We ask that speakers please address their comments to the board directly rather than the audience. In the unlikely event that the meeting becomes unruly, the board will recess the meeting and return once order has been restored. Finally, I want to remind everyone that you may submit written comments to the board in lieu of speaking during the public comment period if you so choose. Tonight, we've set aside 30 minutes for public comment, where each speaker who has signed up before 3:30 today has 3 minutes to speak. If a person requests to speak after 3:30, speakers may sign up in person at the meeting with the clerk and will be afforded that opportunity to speak. Our first speaker of the night is Mr. Vincent Malfitano.
Good evening, Vince Malfitano. I'd like to quote from your school district policy on cell phone bans. It says in one part, quote, school administration may confiscate student electronic mobile devices for violation of this policy. It says shortly thereafter, and I quote, the school is not responsible for any damage, loss, or theft of electronic devices. That is illegal. Your law firm, what is it, Ingram Smith, you ran this by them? Was this run by the district school policy committee for approval? It's ridiculous. It's insane. It's stupid. Now, I appreciate the engagement of some to try to talk to me about this, but Assemblyman Otis was nice enough to look into my inquiry, and he called me up. I asked him, in this empowering legislation, was there any blanket immunity given to any school district for confiscation of a phone? They take someone's property and they lose it, damage it, or it gets stolen. He says, no, Mr. Malfitano, it's not there. Now, I was told that your lawyers or some genius says, well, the legislation is silent about it. That doesn't mean squat. That doesn't mean you can put a policy into effect that violates long-standing law. If you park somewhere in a city and your car gets towed for violating the policy of parking, and then you pay the fine and you go to get your car and it's gone, oh, I'm sorry. Gee, isn't that too bad? Do any of you have any interest in looking into this, or are you asleep? I don't mean to be rude, but I've raised this before and I hear nothing that's substantive in solving this problem. Let me ask you, Ms. Jacob, if your kid goes to school and he comes home and says, my $1,000 cell phone was taken by the school and I went to get it and they don't have it, what are you going to do? You going to eat that? Look, do something about that. The last thing I want to mention is the insane policy on Indigenous Peoples Day, which I have mentioned to some of you, and you have done nothing, but you want to engage the community in trust. Indigenous Peoples Day should be the day after Thanksgiving. It's a celebratory day. It talks about the feast of the pilgrims and the native peoples, and on Thanksgiving, it's a happy time. But you don't want that. You want conflict. You want in-your-face woke politics, don't you? You want to make a political statement. That's ugly stuff. But you pretend you want community engagement. You want to engage? Let's move that day to the day after Thanksgiving. It's a happy time. But you want to have, what is it? Hispanic is from the 15th of September to the, I thought it was a month. First, oh, I see. It has to cover Columbus Day. Is that it? Have you thought about that, Ms. Jacob? Have you thought about any of what I'm talking about?
Thank you, Mr. Malfitano. Next up for public comment is Ms. Mina Moore.
Good evening. I spoke at the last meeting, and I'm here again to reiterate my concerns about busing. Thank you, Dr. Reynolds, for speaking about that tonight. I do appreciate it. I'm glad to hear that the district is taking steps to improve the situation. When I spoke last time, I was told by a member of the transportation department who was there that someone would reach out to me to discuss it. No one did, and I can't get through on the phone. And now that you're here in person, I'm just going to go over a few of the things that I mentioned last time. I am a New Rochelle parent. I have 2 children that go to school at WTA, which is a private school here in New Rochelle. So I want to make sure that the general addressing this problem is going to be addressed for our school as well. We did have a school that was door-to-door in the last year. It stopped in front of our house in both directions, both for regular and for late state busing. And we also had 2 buses because kids were arriving late to school. So this year we have even more students, but we only have 1 bus, and the busing is pooled. I had pooled busing as a child. I lived in an apartment building on the Lower East Side, and all the apartment buildings on our block, we went to the top of the block, and all the kids got on the bus. It made sense and it was safe. We walked on the sidewalk. It took a minute. My son also had that in Long Island when we were in pre-K, the same exact situation. But the pooled busing that we have right now, when my kids come home from school, the bus stop is at least a 15 or 20-minute walk from our house without sidewalks on the streets with cars, and it's dangerous. And we're being asked to do this in all weather and after nightfall. The stop that they've been assigned also, which is at the intersection of Avon and Oxford, is a very dangerous location. It's at the foot of a hill, a steep hill, and a blind curve on the other direction. And from what I understand, there were 2 previous bus accidents at this very location. It's very hard for me to understand why a pooled busing with multiple children was placed at the exact stop of past bus accidents. It's very unsafe, and it's a tremendous liability for the district if something like that were to happen again. So I'm asking that you could change that bus stop for my children and the other children. It's against the district's own safety policies and guidelines. We can't really use the busing that was assigned to us effectively because it's so far away. I could drive to the bus stop, and by then I might as well drive to the school and pick up my children directly. It doesn't really make sense to drive to and from the bus stop. So the busing is not actually meeting the needs of all of the children and the parents. We ask for reasonable, effective, and safe busing. Even if it meets the minimum criteria, it doesn't meet the parents' needs. And what's the point of having busing if it's not useful to the families? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Next up is Miss Attilia Taylor Tanner.
Just as a reminder, over the period of the Atlantic slave trade from approximately 1526 to 1867, some 12.5 million captured men, women, and children were put on ships in Africa, and 10.7 million arrived in America. So just want to make sure I start with that. Good evening, honorable board members. I'm here to discuss resolution number 26158 and also policy 6610 that was adopted in 1988. Also, the student board member ex officio, which is a bill number 9018-A.9855A. Under the recent unfortunate circumstances concerning an insensitive elementary school assignment regarding slavery, it is clear we do not have a satisfactory social studies, global history, nor geography curriculum. In addition to not having an elementary grade level appropriate, free, and fair education concerning the local history of New Rochelle, I am curious about the decisions made about the upcoming field trip to shores beyond this Long Island Sound to Germany this upcoming May of 2026. The board in our community is expected to consider and vote affirmatively on yet another trip to Europe, while currently elementary school children in New Rochelle haven't a clue about our own local and national history. Quiz any elementary student on which president is currently leading our nation, nor how many states are part of our great nation. They have no idea. Ask your children tonight any question we were able to memorize and answer 50 years ago, or even 25 years ago when some of my children were in school, when we had a robust local and global elementary history, social studies, and geography curriculum. The current policy by which the board wishes to approve this field trip is more than 35 years old, when the world was much safer. On the subject of field trips, we won't even discuss the red tape in order to have a local field trip. Don't even have it approved. It's almost impossible to have our children have a field trip. Instead of assuming why Germany was chosen as the next European vacation, field trip, we should expect a full summary of expenses paid, including stipends, rooms, meals for school employees acting as chaperones. New York State law mandates most school boards to have a student representative, ex officio, on school boards. That was as of July 1st, 2025. We're into September, and you guys have already started a 2030 plan without the student being represented. When the student is elected or appointed, we would probably like to know how that was done and what will you, okay.
Mr. Taylor Tanner, you want to email the rest of the comments?
will.
Okay, thank you. Next up for public comment is Ms. Miriam Dasim.
Good evening, Miriam Seam. Hi, everyone. Haven't seen you in a while, and all my latest board candidates. Good to see you. So, I want to talk about. It was great to hear about all of your goals, 2030. You know what tends to happen is we just keep putting it out for the next 5 years. We have done this, 2025. So we're here at 2025. Did we accomplish those goals? Did we do those things? We don't ever talk about the continuity. So we just keep bringing up, the new goals, 2030. We're going to be proactive. So in hearing all of this, which ties into, we had a very tumultuous end of our last year with the school budget and the budget cuts and all of that. And there's a lot of information that we were asking for last year. We didn't get it yet. We expected to get it over the summer. We should at least start the year by having it. We did all of these budget cuts. Where are we? What do we have now that we didn't have last year, or that we cut and have replaced it with? What does it look like? We should have a clear idea of where we are with the budget being so significant last year, and we don't have that. I remember the last meeting that we had in terms of budget, we talked about with the Lincoln PTA, we talked about, we cut 52 people, we saved, I'm sorry if I don't remember all the numbers right now because I'm doing it off the top of my head, but it was around there. We saved like $4 million, even though we were looking to save 22. We had 2 million more that we saved because the charter school wasn't coming up, so we used $1 million and brought 8 more people back. And it's like, we didn't cut the 200 that we said. We didn't get to the 22 million. You're only telling me that we saved like 5 or 6 million. So where is the rest of the saving? Explain that to me, please. I asked that back in May. We don't have that information. I don't see it anywhere. We need to have this continuity of information. We're talking about communication. We don't have it. The pool, we just talked about the pool. Do you know that the last time, not this last budget season, but the one before, prior year, that was the last page of the budget, is that we're going to approve the money for the pool. It took us a whole year. We didn't do anything. And now we're hearing about we're going to fix the pool. We're going to do it rightly. And it sounds like it's a lot of great things. Why didn't we do this when we did the $100,000 capital expenditure before we ran into Ida? And we know our school floods. I don't understand. We have a Carl Thurnor internship program, but how is it that we didn't do this stuff? And so we need to explain that, and we need to have that information. The continuity is missing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dasim. Yeah. Would anybody else like to sign up for public comment tonight? Ms. Carl? And then, what's your name? No, you can go there. Yeah.
Lorraine Carl, 43 Belmont Avenue. The trip that's supposed to be taking place, it's very interesting that it's considered a field trip. I just want everyone to know that last year, the 5th grade at Trinity School were supposed to go to Broadway. They go every year, but because of busing, they were not allowed to do it, nor were some of the other elementary schools. So I think we should identify what a true field trip is. Also, transportation. I looked up what the New York State Department of Education and Transportation says. And if we do, say, door-to-door for one group, we have to do it for all. So let's look at all of our bus stops for all of our children taking buses, whether they're bused out of district or in district, and make sure they are safe and that children know where the bus stops are, and that that we can avoid any accidents with any of the children, and that we also change the signs about no turn on red and change the times for that, because we are starting earlier for some schools, and just to keep our children safe with the busing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carl. Next up, Andrea.
Good evening. My name is Andrea Alexander. I am a New Rochelian through and through. I love this town. I want to say thank you for being here. You did mention that you guys have full-time jobs and you come here after to get yelled at by us, so we appreciate you and your presence, and we value it. I am here tonight on behalf of the arts. I am a multidisciplinary artist, a writer, a composer, a singer from a family of the same. My uncle moved here over 20 years ago as a music producer. He worked with the likes of Mick Jagger and Donna Summers. He passed away due to a heart attack, but his legacy lives on. His name was Keith Diamond, so I go by the pseudonym Alex Diamond and out of respect for him. Music has been at the forefront of my life, and it is a must. As we mentioned a lot, which was very in-depth about infrastructure, just as important, the connection with students with music and art, where it pertains to mental health and mental wealth, even through to you being adults. We need it. I have two quick messages I want to get across. I founded an organization called the Phoenix Village. It is a community of networking artists to pull from the likes and the diamonds that we have in our community and to offer them opportunity. With your help, we can provide a partnership. You were mentioning partnerships and internships with students with carpentry. I would suggest and offer the ability to do that with music and the arts, mentorship. And we have people here that want to be a part of helping our students. I also work hand in hand with NARCA, and we have the Arts Fest coming up where we're going to highlight several artists. I work with Teresa Leghorn and just a host of dynamic women, and their goal is to get the arts out into our community. So I have to quickly say there was a child who was known as a bully on a bus, and then we saw him at an African drumming concert, and he did not miss a beat. And we realized that sometimes it's just music. Sometimes it's just the arts that get us through. And then I will end on this last note. My best friend is raising a child. His name is Benjamin Oliveros. He is nonverbal. And while he cannot speak, he can sing. And I just wanted you to hear her note and his note. And I will end on that. Sorry about this is his mother, and she's speaking. And I don't know if you can hear. Oh, sorry. Let's see. So sorry. I can send this to you.
Why don't
Yeah,
you email
I'll
it to
send
the Board
you.
of Ed email?
Oh, you want to hear it? Oh, okay. I'm worried about the.
Okay.
Oh, you guys are so great. Okay. My earrings agree, so. Okay, so first we are going to hear her speak, and this is the importance of what music means to her son, who is nonverbal. Her name is Donna Castano. Her son is Benjamin Oliveros.
Music is the one common denominator in life that brings us all together. We all like music. There is no difference in that.
How does it affect your son?
Especially in people with special needs, because it frees them from being within themselves and lets them be
for when he's singing songs about Winnie the Pooh. And I can send you that video. But I had to share that. It's important to me, and I would love to connect with you. I'm also starting to develop partnerships with the colleges. Monroe was one of the first. They have an internship open call coming up, and we would like to provide internships for their students so that they can provide mentorship and work with hand in hand with students. Thank you so much.
Yep, just share that information with us.
You got it.
Okay,
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to sign up for public comment tonight? All right, seeing none, we are going to move into our. Oh, do you want to say anything before we move on about Human Academy?
Thank you very much, President Iannuzzi, for allowing me this opportunity to speak out of our normal capacity. This evening, we are very pleased to announce that we have, through an opportunity to work with our community and to develop some characteristics that we thought were important for one of our most cherished buildings, our Huguenot Academy, to build a profile as it relates to the leadership that we would like to see serving our students in that particular program. The New Rochelle High School Huguenot Academy, as we know, is an opportunity for our students to feel that they cannot function to their highest ability with the level of proficiency that they would like to see of themselves, work in a smaller school environment, and that is what the Huguenot Academy has been developed for. We did transition we had a transition with our leadership there, and through a hiring process that was managed by our Human Resources Department and our New Rochelle High School administration, we were able to select and make an offer to an individual who shows promise in terms of what was shared during that process to lead our Huguenot Academy. And this evening, she's with us, Dr. Marika Neufeld, and she is about to be appointed to that position. So we wanted to recognize her. She's joined by Dr. Dagobert Artiles, and once the resolution is read, we will offer you an opportunity, if you would like to, address the public. Okay?
So, colleagues, can I get a motion and a second to approve consent agenda for personnel resolutions number 26-146, 1 through 13, number 26-147, 1 through 1, number 26-148, 1 through 9, number 26-149, 1 through 1, and number 26-150, 1 through 20, according to the recommended action for each item.
So move Clayton Fernandez.
Second Lewis.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations.
Congratulations, and welcome, Dr. Neufeld. Through the indulgence of the board, if you would like to address, you don't have to, no pressure. And please know that Dr. Neufeld is so dedicated to New Rochelle. She'll be beginning in her new role on Monday. Okay? So just thank you. Just show your face. Thank you and welcome. And we look forward to all of the great work that you're going to do for our children, for our students, and building a new experience for our community at Huguenot Academy. Sure, please.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so very much for this opportunity. I look forward to working with each and every one of you. I consider myself very blessed to be able to work with the future of New Rochelle. It's going to be a great ride. Stay tuned.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Reynolds. Colleagues, we're going to move into consent agenda general resolutions. Can I get a motion and a second to approve consent agenda for general resolutions number 26-151 through number 26-160 according to the recommended action for each item?
So move Vega.
Second, Clayton Fernandez.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Our next meeting will be on Tuesday, October 7th, here at Central Administration. I think we're going to start a little earlier, colleagues, around 5 o'clock for an audit committee meeting, but I'll send an email. And just, I will not be here that meeting. I will send you guys a little email about that as well. So can we get a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting?
So moved, Williams.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Good night, everyone.